Hey guys, we've got a MSI GT73 gaming laptop. We'll look at what it's like to use, how it performs, and what the sort of competitive offering might be. Okay, firstly, this is a 1080 graphics version with a high refresh rate display. So we'll look at the keyboard first. It's RGB lighting. It's a very nice keyboard. My only comment is probably the sort of response could be a bit more firm. It feels kind of, the travel is okay, it could be better, but obviously I think if you're sort of gamer, you might want to sort of use a sort of external keyboard. One would almost sort of expect a mechanical keyboard, perhaps at this price range. The trackpad is quite precise, quite large. The sort of click button feels a bit squishy and feels a bit like it could definitely use some more precision. Okay, we'll quickly close it. It's very nice sort of aluminum finish on the outside, and essentially it's the best way to describe this is probably a desktop replacement, in the sense that if we put it next to a sort of business laptop, HP Spectre 13, it feels like it's eating the HP Spectre. It's kind of, it's very desktop replacements, you see. Okay, so 3 USB ports on the left and 2 on the right. Plenty of audio ports. At the back, we've got a charging port, HDMI, and Thunderbolt mini display port, Ethernet. And on the other side, we've got card reader as well as 2 USB ports, as mentioned. Okay, so in terms of the really fantastic features, one of them is the high refresh rate display. So 120 Hertz. It's sort of different at first, but once you notice the difference, it's actually quite amazing. The next bit of this clip for the next minute or so might have some flash lighting, so if you have epilepsy or something similar, then please do switch fast forward. This is the Apple ad, and they've got some quite interesting strobe light effect that helps to show off the screen in person. Obviously, I'm aware that in the clip you might not be able to see as much, but it's really gorgeous display in person. Okay, so we'll just play, and if we can actually turn up the brightness before we play it, that will help. So it's just 3 seconds. And if we sort of rewind.
And Danny Brown.
So the combination of high color accuracy and high brightness, as well as high refresh rate, really captures the moment while this is on. So it's really kind of a fantastic screen to use. Normally in the sort of day-to-day, in terms of browsing the web, it actually also feels really nice as well. Very little lag. It sort of makes you feel kind of going back to an older screen. Ugh, what is this? I mean, personally, it's a sort of this sort of is still sort of full HD display. So in terms of resolution, it's not sort of it's not outstanding. But I'd rather sort of have a display that doesn't have a scaling issue, and that does sort of its own resolution really well. And I think that's one of the bonuses. But I mean, obviously, your sort of preferences probably varies quite a bit. So that's just my comments. Okay, so this particular system, Core i7, and plenty of RAM, 3 SSD slots. One is used in the system, one of the older 2.5-inch hard drive slot, killer Wi-Fi, killer Ethernet, and one of the 1080. Okay, let's talk about the 1080 graphics. Firstly, this particular laptop, there is a different version of this laptop that has 2 of the 1070 built in. So that version, in some games, will give you almost a sort of double the performance. But I mean, obviously, it's obviously the sort of that depends on the sort of driver compatibility, and in SOI sometimes you get sort of micro-stuttering. So some people might say that they actually prefer the sort of single, one of the more powerful card, 1080. So that's fine. We'll leave that at that. So what I actually want to look at is here's a regular charger. Here's 1 0.2 kilo, 330 watts brake. Oh, you can probably, it's just, if you drop that on your feet accidentally, it might not feel, anyway. The point is basically for a single 1080 graphic card version of this laptop, there's just one charger, 330 watts. For the Do 1070, there's actually two of the sort of charger. You've got two power breaks. You've got to splice them together with a sort of mechanism. So it's actually really quite space consuming. So that brings us back to the sort of value proposition. So in theory, you would think if it can do 1070 in SOI, it could do 1080. But I mean, obviously, MSI didn't bring that support in any marketed sort of platform, as far as we know, in the UK. That's understandable because they probably don't want to steal the thunder away from the GT83, the bigger version of this. But nonetheless, this feels like you've got to sort of feels a bit like a sort of wasted potential, in the sense that you know this particular laptop could do more, could support do 1080 probably, but they just chose not to. They just chose to say, actually, if you want those premium features, you've got to pay more. So it almost feels artificially crippled in a sense. So it's okay. So in terms of other options, that's quite interesting. You can have this particular laptop with overclockable processor. We've got the standard processor, it goes up to 3.8 in turbo boost. This laptop has pretty impressive cooling capabilities, especially when you're using just one card. So what that means is if you were to want to sustain the sort of turbo boost on the HK version of this Core i7, the overclockable one, it's actually, it gives you quite a sort of nice bump in sort of multi-threaded tasks. But I mean, in single sort of well, in especially more sort of GPU bound stuff, not CPU limited stuff, you might not notice as much difference. And also in sort of single threaded tasks, you might notice much difference. Because to be fair, the sort of KB Lake to Skylake, it's not as much difference. If you were to clock sort of 7820 HK versus sort of 6700 from Skylake generation, the sort of maximum, you can probably only get maybe 25% difference in multi-threading, and that's sort of pushing it quite heavily. Okay, so in terms of the speakers, it's actually really delightful. It's kind of thanks to the sort of extra sort of height of the laptop, they fitted, I think, 5 watts subwoofer. It's actually quite good for the laptop. Obviously, you would expect better for a sort of external speaker any day of the week, but it's good to have. It fills a room, and it's quite nice in absence of the external speaker. Okay, so let me just think if there's any other point. So you can disengage the dedicated graphics by pressing a button, but you need to switch to Intel only graphics, you need to reboot, which is quite annoying. There's a fun button which gets the fun to speed up really fast. It's really noisy when it's sort of when the fun is running full volume, and it's really nice. There's sort of a different color RGB. It's brilliant. We'll just leave that at that. Okay, so in terms of comparison, let's say if you were comparing this to sort of Alienware 17, this one is. I guess the main thing to think about is warranty services, and it's also the sort of extra bonus sort of MSI might give you. So things like MSI really puts lots of effort into things like their custom audio drivers, all the sort of value-added premium. Those are great, but I can't just for the life of me remember just how many times I've reinstalled things like these sort of drivers. It's each time having to you update the OS, you've got to sort of uninstall it and then kind of clean reinstall this kind of audio driver, everything. So I mean, these systems almost kind of give me a feel that they're sort of slightly fragile. You've got to install it the right way to take the full advantage of it. whereas a sort of older sort of, or whereas a sort of Alienware, although they have probably less sort of less of these features, it's easier to get those kind of features, installed, and those just feels less sort of fragile. But that's just my personal view. Okay, so external casing. If you leave it on the desk, it's unlikely you scratch it, but there might be some scratch mark. Once you notice it, it's there. What we'll do is actually we'll turn this laptop upside down if we can without dropping it, like Linus. Okay, so please don't drop. Please don't drop. Please don't drop. Okay, great. It brings us to a point which is a generic sticker on the back of most MSI laptops. Although on the forums they do say often that you can sort of you can kind of open this sticker to change RAM, etc. But kind of it just puts you off really from owning this laptop. It just gives you a sense that this laptop is not yours; it's somebody else's property. That whilst you're in the warranty period, which is the only period that's worth owning it, you can't really change anything that's M2 potentially without some part of you worrying, what if they say I. But that's just personal sort of personal preference. I'd rather sort of they clearly say either have no sticker or kind of just have easier to open compartments, because MSI laptop, they're notorious for being difficult to open. I mean, this one is actually quite easy to open, the sort of back cover, which is nice. Okay, that brings us to the screen. If you were to get the 4K version of this laptop with the IPS display, often the first thing you need to check is whether it has some backlight bleed. We were lucky in this one. I think the sort of 120 Hz of display might be actually a TN panel, but with the sort of IPS MSI laptop, you often get the sort of backlight bleed, and there's no simple way of often getting it replaced. Either, well, the simplest way is return it, get another one, or kind of send it to MSI. But we've sent a sort of GS73 or something similar to MSI, but 4 weeks later, they decided to sort of get it back to us after maybe 10 back and forth emails saying, we said, is it backlight bleed? And they said, oh, we didn't notice it. Back and forth, back and forth. They sent it back with the same display, same problem. And they just refused to sort of replace the panel. But we know if you were to sort of get a Dell, with the sort of Dell, Lenovo, and HP, they're sort of the bigger sort of companies in the sense that they have business customers, well, by ship volume at least. They have business customers depending on them, and they have on-site warranty support. So with the sort of Alienware, if you have this sort of premium warranty on-site, instead of having to potentially wait 4 weeks, you can have the sort of technician in your house the same week who sort of replace the screen, replace even actually the back assembly. And that's just advantage of owning the sort of Dell. It's better service. And I mean, it's that's not to say some sort of Alienware doesn't come with sort of cheaper warranties, but it's just, I think, if you were to sort of get this laptop, this one has 2 years warranty by standard. With Alienware, you can top it up to maybe 3 or 4 years, and that's just so much more reassuring, knowing you can sort of extend the sort of lifeline of a product, especially if it's really expensive. And it's, I guess, in the sort of service aspect of it, at least from my opinion, it's MSI still is falling a bit short. But it's if you think about the sort of depot sort of support, most of the manufacturers, Dell, sort of HP, Lenovo, they've got even sort of MSI, they've got the same location. They use Poland depot, depot in Poland, or sometimes they have UK-based depots. But it's roughly supposed to be comparable, but it's just in our experience, the sort of MSI's warranty is not quite as good as the sort of the mainstream manufacturers. If it were me buying something today, I mean, I would probably just go for the sort of Alienware for the simple reason that I'm just a simple person. I just like my warranty to say exactly how long it's going to last, and I don't like the bottom of my laptop to say that, oh, you can't open this. I'm sorry, you can open this, or no, you can't open it. It's just very confusing. But I know that plenty of people would probably disagree with me, and I genuinely do think this is a really lovely laptop. And it's just, I think, when you're looking at something this exquisite, you probably have your own sort of value criteria, and that you've got to take. And what makes sense for me probably doesn't make sense for you, which is useful to know. Anyway, hope this clip is helpful. In the future, we'll find better way to record video that's involves less sort of blurry cam shaking, but we'll get to it there. But thank you for watching. Thanks. Bye.